You probably clicked on this video because you probably left a related video on autoplay and now you're here, and you're confused because you read the title and you've never heard of this game, and I really don't blame you. If I said I was going to talk about an ultra-violent top-down twin-stick shooter that Devolver published, you would be hard-pressed to not think of the other one. The game went really under the radar. It was shown at an E3 presentation no one took seriously, never to be heard from again. Even I forgot about it until I remembered it was on my wish list. I went back and looked, and I was pretty hopeful for the game, and that hope was certainly not misplaced. The gameplay was as advertised, the visuals that caught my eye were the same as how I remember them. In all respects, it was the same woman I married 7 years ago. The analogy starts to break down there. Just like any other game ever, this one has problems. Let's get started. Like I said before, the visuals are pretty fucking good. Benedict Snyder did a pretty gnarly job at bringing Ragnarok to life. Even the places that are supposed to be dirty are clean as hell. Like it's actually a slum that actual dirty people live in to do dirty things unmonitored by the police. As you descend further into the underbelly of the town, everything starts to feel more robotic and cold. It seems a lot more like people were never supposed to be there. The lighting gets more harsh, and eventually, they just start sending robots after you because you're too deep for them to send assassins. And the killers they send all have great designs too. They all seem to be made with the idea that cybernetic implants and enhancements are the standard. The music is also a great selection. I think the best songs have a great feeling of not feeling. It captures the idea of being a cold-blooded killer, but also picks up during fights. But as much as I sing the game's praises, there are problems. The game has a soundtrack of pre-existing songs rather than ones made for it. While a lot of the same artists pop up, some songs feel a little out of place. Some of the cutscenes in RUINER flash real hard, but have no photosensitivity warning. Oh wow, wait, really? I mean, okay. So never mind, they do have a warning, just in the very fine print of the Steam description at the very bottom. On top of that, there are a few inconsistencies in terms of cutscenes. There are different outfits you can have in the game, but when a cutscene starts, it switches back to the one you have by default. And I can look past that for pre-rendered cutscenes. That's totally fine. It's impractical to render a bunch of different cutscenes for every different jacket you have. But there are cutscenes that I'm pretty sure are rendered in-game, and your jacket still switches. Also, when you leave the creep's lair, they hand you a photo. It's of you, a few creeps, and Nerve. That's a problem, because the only time you leave the creep's lair is after you kill Nerve to get to Wizard. You were never friends with the creeps, they hated you until you killed Nerve, and then became their leader. So unless I'm missing something within the story here, this shouldn't have happened. The story itself is pretty cut and dry. I don't mean that it's bad, it just doesn't leave a whole lot of room for things to be wrong with it. Her is helping you find your brother. Up until the end, that seems to be the goal. But the real story is that you're a biocompatible clone of Boss. If something happens to him, you're there for him to patch himself up. That's where your robotic left arm came from. Boss lost his, so he took yours. Long story short, Her creates a program that makes you think you're looking for your kidnapped brother, when in reality, Boss is using you to take out all the people who want to take over his company. But Her is a double agent who uses you as a Trojan horse to kill Boss along with all the people who wanted to take his company. Why Her wants Boss dead isn't ever revealed. I'm pretty sure that's the story. It might not be. I was going to read this post about everything in depth, but I kinda stopped caring. I'll link to it, but you're probably not here to hear me talk about the story of a game you've never heard for this long. So I promise, this is the last thing. The game has an explanation for everything. How does getting an ability upgrade give you more ammo? It interfaces with your fingertips to make the weapon's ammo creation more efficient. If you read through the lore pages, you'll find an explanation for pretty much everything, from health pickups to ability points. If you're still here, you either really like me, or you're AFK, in which case I hope you passed out because that way you can't close the video. But you've also gotten to the part where I talk about gameplay, so let's start. At the start. The tutorial is unskippable. I don't mean, oh, let me skip the first level, because the tutorial doubles as the first level. I mean, until the game tells you about mechanics, you can't do them. If you haven't gotten to the dashing portion of the tutorial, you can't dash. Until you've gotten to the ability portion of the tutorial, you can't use your shield. It's even there in hard mode. The only place it's not there is New Game Plus. It's pretty minor, but it also minorly annoys me. Let's go over the mechanics the game teaches you. You have a dash, pretty simple, but very useful. Then you have your multi-dash. When you hold down the dash button, time slows and you can click to points that you want to dash to. When you let go, Puppy, which is what people call the character because he's never actually named, will consecutively perform these dashes. It sounds cool, but it's really not useful. There aren't many situations which a multi-dash would help you over a regular dash. Dash charges aren't exactly finite, They refill really quickly. Also, the game teaches you to dash like it's an inherent ability that you'll always have, but you do have to spend ability points on it. And that brings up the abilities. The abilities are great because they promote different playstyles that wouldn't have been there otherwise. You can take a kinetic barrier if you want to play more passively, but you can also take the personal shield if you wanted to play more aggressively. They're good, but they're also locked behind leveling up. To level up, you have to collect karma. You get karma through boxes and other things within levels. There aren't really any other ways of doing it. It's not like leveling up takes forever, but some of the more dope stuff in the game is left until very, very late in it. And considering it isn't that long, you don't get to play with some of the things as much as I'd like to. Like Ghost Break. The normal ability isn't too nuts. It lets you convert an enemy to fight for you, but the final upgrade of it lets you control 3. The problem? You get the last upgrade at level 18. This is the last level of the game. I just hit level 20. I don't know if I'm missing something, and feel free to attack me if I am, but only getting to use a rad ability like that for one level, surprise surprise, kinda sucked, and the game deletes your save after you finish it, so you can't go back and play around. Not that you could double back to previous levels anyway. Hey, pause the video right there. Whoops, I lied. You can go back to previous levels, I just didn't look at the very obvious level selector. You can use New Game Plus to use your previous save on a new run, but that's the hardest difficulty, and considering it takes your previous save, if you start a new game, it won't let you play New Game Plus until you finish the game again. If you really want to play the game again, New Game Plus is hard, but it's fun to play with the abilities through the whole game. New Game Plus rides that line between annoyingly difficult and playfully challenging. Enemies just hit really hard, but apart from that, I'm pretty sure nothing is different. The frustration that you would face from this is offset by the fact that you have the tools to deal with it early. I assume that later on it would get more upsetting when people could teleport and one-shot you. I wouldn't know because I didn't get to play New Game Plus for more than 5 minutes. I finished the game to get gameplay footage, then checked out New Game Plus. Then I noticed that there wasn't a tutorial, so I backed out and started a new game on hard mode to see if it was only there on easy and normal, which, spoiler alert, it's still there on hard mode for some reason. After that, I backed out to go back to New Game Plus, only to realize that the lack of multiple saves means fuck you if you wanted to start a new game and realize the grind wasn't worth doing a second time. And oh yeah, there's one more mechanic I have to tell you about. RUINER kills, the last mechanic, which for some reason they put in the next level rather than just putting in the tutorial. By the way, the game ends on a cliffhanger, and they don't seem intent on making a sequel. What do you mean that was out of place? So what are RUINER kills? These are basically the same thing, except now, some of them overstay their welcome. Some of them are like this, but others are like this. The slower ones really break the flow of battle. It knocks me out when I'm totally into it, I'm on low health, I go for the RUINER kill, and then... there are all these mechanics that the game teaches you, and that's all it really needs to. The game's fun. So let's talk more about that. Walking is a little weird, that's all there is to it. The game world is at a skewed angle, so holding W to walk forward moves you in this direction rather than this one. It just takes a second to get used to is all. But after you get the hang of everything, the game feels really smooth to play. You can reposition instantly while dashing with RUINER kills, which let you blink to enemies. And it works so well because everyone is slower than you, but you aren't faster than bullets, and bullets hurt. So there's the incentive of not dying to keep you moving. Not to mention RUINER kills work just like glory kills in Doom, emphasizing playing offensively rather than sitting in a corner and waiting for your health to come back. It's a simple system that really works in the favor of games like this, encouraging a player to be more aggressive when hurt. When you understand the game, in my opinion, playing melee only is really fun. I didn't encounter many bugs either. It was just things clipping into walls and ragdolls being broken, but I did get soft-locked after one enemy fell out of the level, and there wasn't a death barrier down there, so we just kept falling. I was forced to kill myself to be able to advance. I don't really consider this game-breaking because it was easily fixed. Also, this ability point got stuck in a wall, but I was able to pull it out, which brings me to my next point. Ability points can be reassigned at any time, so you can feel out what you need in a fight rather than being locked into something after you spend points on it. It's a good system that fits the game's style of improvising as things come to you rather than having a plan to execute. For all the compliments I'm giving this game, I don't only have good things to say about it. Enemy variety is really lacking. There's only a few types of people you can face. Dudes with rifles, shotguns, pistols, SMGs, and melee weapons. 5 total guys. You encounter the odd guy with a minigun, or people who will blow themselves up, but that's about all you get in terms of the whole game. The bosses are also very not fun. If you took all of the headhunts, replaced them with creeps with unusually large health pools, and just didn't tell me, I probably wouldn't know. They are just stronger basic enemies. They do not have anything to separate them from each other, except sometimes, and by sometimes, I mean one time, they have a special weapon. There are only 2 different bosses in the game, I think. I don't remember because, big surprise, when everyone is the same, I don't remember Jurek, I remember that boss with the shotgun, I'm not sure which one. The only two bosses that aren't the same barely felt like bosses. Trafficking. He's shooting a stream of bullets at you. You hit these pillars and they electrocute him to the ground. You hit him, repeat. Mother unit. You shoot at the robot. It shoots a laser for a bit. Block laser, shoot, repeat. If you don't have a shield, you can't win. It's a stat check. It's a wall that says if you have this, you win, but if you don't, you lose. Trafficking isn't even a stat check. He's just a check. Hey, can you walk in a circle and left click? Awesome, right this way. Not to mention, once you get ram stun, every boss can be stun locked, rendering them completely powerless. And the funny thing is that some regular enemies can't even be stunned. The final boss of the game is even more underwhelming. You find out Mother Unit is actually the Six Sisters controlling all of it. They seem so powerful. They brought back King 3 times to fight you, but you can stun lock him too. So what could the final boss be? It's the Mother Unit fight again, except now you have cover and you're being swarmed with enemies. Unless you destroy the piles that they spawn from, then they just stop spawning entirely and it's the Mother Unit fight again. The bosses do not feel nearly enough like bosses. I also still have a problem with locking abilities behind leveling up, especially when there's only one way to gain karma to level up. When you run around Renkok, you'll find these people who give you side quests. The game likes to pretend it has side quests that give you something. None of them actually do. And none of them are actually really side quests. All the things people tell you to do, they're all just the main story. They are complete fucking bogus. You can encounter this guy who tells you to collect I Ching coins for him to read your future. I thought, oh well, maybe he sees incredible wealth in my future and I get some karma for it. Nope, he just tells you your future. What was the point of collecting the coins then? And there's this other place, the Church of Disorder. They ask you to die 50 times. Apparently they give you karma. But no one fucking knows because only one death counts per level, and this'll knock you out, there aren't 50 levels in the game. Apparently, you have to die 50 times, once per level, over multiple playthroughs. Who would do that? Why would anyone do that? You get tricked into thinking someone is important, they get the whole art and portrait and stuff, but they do nothing. I thought this guy was important. He doesn't do anything. He has an entire deal, well-made art and shit, but nothing. Every playthrough, I would go and talk to him thinking that I was starting a new side quest. Then when I'd come back to him, I thought I was going nuts because he would say the same thing. I'd think, I spoke to him, right? I swear I spoke to him. But he just says the same thing. You think he's important, because the game pretends he's important. You can talk to other people, but they just get text boxes above their heads. What makes these people so special? Renkok South itself is a complete fucking sham too. There's an arena, but it's so tucked in the corner and out of the way that I didn't even know it was there for my first 3 playthroughs. Renkok is such a big and well-crafted place that really embodies the techno slum. But at the end of the day, it's totally fucking useless. It's even cut out entirely in the speedrun mode of the game. Every time I'm there, I find myself asking why even bother making this place. It's a central hub, but you can't go back to levels you've already completed. So it's a complete feeling of who cares, just take me to the next level. And one last thing, at the start of the game, there's this mechanic with a timer. If it hits 0, you die, but if you get kills, it gives you more time. I thought this was something really cool that spiced up fights a bit, but the problem lies with how often they use it in the game. Twice. 2 times. In the whole game. At the start and at the end. Fights in this game follow a very repetitive formula. They lock you in a room, they send a bunch of enemies at you, you can take your time. But if you've listened to any part of this review, you probably know that I think this game isn't one where you're supposed to take your time. The timer was a perfect mechanic to tell you to move your ass. This game forgot about the thing that could have made their aggressive gameplay even more aggressive. It's such a missed opportunity. I hate that they didn't decide to use it more. And that's actually where my notes end. So where does this leave us? Well, even through all that, I think RUINER is a pretty okay game. There are a few low action situations sometimes, and it has the basic idea of fun down pretty well. Being good with mechanics feels very rewarding. IGN said sometimes they didn't know why they were dying, but I think deaths in this game are pretty fair. Bullets hurt and you're not a super tank. It's better to think about it as a more fast-paced Hotline Miami than Doom. You are rewarded for controlling yourself well. That being said, I do think the game is a one and done deal. You're not missing anything if you only decide to play it once. So what do I have to say in conclusion? Doom is the same price as this game, and none of this matters because no one watched to the end.